You lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Oh, here we go. Barely 24 hours out from the Jackson Arnold revenge game. It's just unclear whether it will be Jackson Arnold getting revenge on Oklahoma or Oklahoma getting revenge on Jackson Arnold. That remains to be determined. But that is the matchup this weekend, and a highly consequential one in Norman as the Sooners look to move to 4-0 for the second time in the Brent Venables era at the University of Oklahoma. You did say you were going to be in the building tomorrow, did you not, Grayson?
Yes,
Singleton?
I will be in the building tomorrow afternoon.
Did you attend any games last year?
I went to two. I went to the Houston game, and I went to the South Carolina game last year.
Okay. So, basically, the conclusion that we can come to is that OU tends to play sucky football when Grayson Singleton is in attendance.
Well, I mean, maybe on the offensive end, but I was at the Illinois State game this year. If that,
you were?
If that
Okay.
kind of rights the ship a little bit.
Okay, well, I mean, FCS Cupcake opponent. I'm not really sure whether that does anything to offset the agenda and the narrative that I want to push.
Y'all still want me to go down to OU Texas now?
We'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll make a judgment thereafter. But, yep, OU Auburn coming your way tomorrow from the Palace on the Prairie. And, Mr. Singleton, it is going to be another star-studded visitor list tomorrow of blue-chip prospects from across the country that are going to be in town for this matchup. Now, it's not as lengthy a list as the OU-Michigan game because I don't know how long it will be. I don't know how long it had been since I've seen a list that rivals that one. So, it's not as extensive as the visitor list for OU-Michigan, but there are a few guys that were in town for the OU-Michigan game that are already going to be back to watch OU and Auburn just 2 weeks later. One of them is five-star offensive tackle Cooper Hackett out of Fort Gibson, Oklahoma. And Grayson, here we go. The verbal commitment to Texas Tech, as we mentioned at the tail end of August, it wasn't entirely out of left field because I think most knew and understood that the Red Raiders had put the promise of a lot of money in front of Cooper Hackett. But since he committed to Texas Tech, he's already visited Oklahoma once for a game day, and he's due back at Oklahoma once again for another game day. And I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, the last time we saw something like this play out, the last time we saw a player committed to another school take multiple visits to Oklahoma while committed to said other school, it was Peyton Bowen, who I'm fairly certain was on campus for every single one of Oklahoma's home games in the fall of 2022. So I don't know that you're going to be able to count on getting Cooper Hackett to Norman with that type of regularity, but one visit is nothing to sneeze at. Multiple visits, at that point, I think it's only natural that you're beginning to regard Oklahoma's chances to flip the kid as pretty dang serious, if they weren't already.
Well, they were always going to be serious because he's from Fort Gibson, and he grew up an Oklahoma fan. So, look, my stance on this has always been the same. We don't regard the verbal commitment to Texas Tech as all that much right now. I mean, we're basically treating this like Tristan Key's commitment to LSU and what ultimately happened with Tristan Key's situation. He decommits and flips to Tennessee. So we're talking about this and treating this through that same vein. Ultimately, what I think is going to happen, as long as Oklahoma State compensates him reasonably, I don't even think Oklahoma's going to have to outbid Texas Tech. And this is without any inside knowledge or anything like that. Just from 2 + 2 = 4. If Oklahoma does that, Oklahoma will have Cooper Hackett. That's the way I look at it. He keeps coming back to Norman. He's made multiple visits. It's easy for his family to get here. He grew up a fan, and the opportunity is now right in front of him. I don't think he walks away from that and ends up in Lubbock.
Now, look, I think we understand the purchasing power that Cody Campbell and the Red Raiders have is almost unrivaled across the country. There is an insane amount of money backing that operation. But the sense I've gotten, and I believe I've mentioned this on the airwaves before, Grayson, the sense I've gotten is that Oklahoma doesn't necessarily have to outbid Texas Tech. They just have to get to a point where it's fair market value plus for Cooper Hackett at that point. Like, you're going to have to pay a premium for this kid. I think that's pretty well understood. He's a 5-star offensive tackle. Does anyone know offhand? Because I can't. I should know this. Has there been one in the modern recruiting era? Has there been a 5-star offensive tackle from the state of Oklahoma? A pure tackle, mind you, because Bray Walker was a 5-star in the 2018 class. But I think it was pretty obvious early on he wasn't going to play tackle and would wind up sliding inside because of the lack of foot speed. Cooper Hackett is a tackle all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the type of rare prospect at a premium position that you just don't see very often, period. Like, there may be 3 or 4 of these guys every single class. Very rarely do you have one from your home state. And so Oklahoma is determined to do right by Cooper Hackett. The coaching staff has communicated to him time and again they want him to be the face of the 2027 class at the University of Oklahoma. And I mean, at this point, Grayson, with Peyton Houston out of the picture,
I was about to say that seems
there's really
like
no
a
question.
possibility.
Yeah, there's no question. It's like it is Cooper Hackett that is the top priority on Oklahoma's 2027 board, without question.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially now. I don't know how you can look the kid dead in the face and say, "Hey, we want you to be the face of the class," and here's this quarterback that everybody wants that we look like we're in good position to get. I don't know how much they sold him on that, but that's kind of semantics. And now, obviously, that's in the rear view. Here's the thing, though. None of us think that Oklahoma is going to need to outbid Texas Tech for this kid. But what you can't do is try to generate by yourself a hometown discount and disrespect the kid. You don't want to do that. So, look, as long as they compensate him very equitably and give him, like you said, fair market value plus, you're going to be in a good spot. You're not going to have to match Texas Tech or, jump Texas Tech's offer, but get in the neighborhood, and you also have the frame of reference as to what 5-star offensive tackles go for. How would you know? Because you just paid it to Michael Fasusi 2 classes prior. So you're already going to be familiar with what the financial demands are going to be for a guy of that caliber at that position. So now it's just a matter of time, I think, before Oklahoma puts the number in front of him, gets it done, and, he is no longer a Red Raider. He would be a Sooner.
By the way, I'm glad you brought up Michael Fasusi, because can we talk about Michael Fasusi for a second? Last time Cooper Hackett was on campus, Michael Fasusi was tasting the gridiron at the collegiate level for the very first time. He was making his first career appearance and first career start for the Sooners as a true freshman at left tackle against a future NFL defensive end in Derek Moore of Michigan. And he passed that first test with flying colors. Now,
yeah, he did well.
He was upgraded last night on the availability report, which we'll discuss in more detail in a little while. He was upgraded from questionable to probable. So it would stand to reason that Michael Fasusi is going to draw his second career start tomorrow against Auburn, in which he will be tasked with blocking another future NFL defensive end and a potential first-rounder in Keldrick Falk. So, if you're in Cooper Hackett's shoes, the guy you're watching is Michael Fasusi. And if Michael Fasusi performs well against Keldrick Falk tomorrow, that's got to be music to the ears of Cooper Hackett, because what you're witnessing in real time is concrete proof that you can show up, play immediately as a true freshman, and earn the trust of Bill Bedenbaugh and have a chance to play big-time football for a big-time program with championship aspirations. Because especially if Oklahoma goes and beats Auburn tomorrow, man, the buzz and the hype is only going to intensify surrounding this team and what they're capable of moving forward, even with this gauntlet of an SEC schedule that they're facing. But OU paid good money to a 5-star offensive tackle in Michael Fasusi, got him to campus, made him a starter from the jump, although it took an injury to Jacob Sexton in order for that to happen as quickly as it did. And he's played well, and he's excelled, and he's been ready, and he's rewarded the coaching staff's faith in him. And so if you're Cooper Hackett, you're no doubt looking at that situation and thinking, that can be me.
And I will say this to that point, too. That's a recruiting edge that Oklahoma at the offensive line has not had ever, because there's not that many examples of, okay, I'm going to be a true freshman, I know I'm good enough, and I really now have the opportunity to earn that starting spot. That generally hasn't happened. What Michael Fasusi is doing is uncharted territory for the Sooners. So if you can show that, you combine that with the resume and the reputation that is Bill Bedenbaugh and all the dues that he's gotten to the NFL, and not just gotten them to the NFL, gotten them seriously paid as well. Boy, I mean, you're talking about an uptick in recruiting in terms of your recruiting prowess if you can show that and add that to the pitch.
Chris from Knoxville on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, which, by the way, for those that do not know, is 405-651-3439. Chris from Knoxville asks, if Tech gets blasted by Utah in the morning and OU has another Michigan-like performance and win against Auburn, could Hackett flip rather soon, or is this going to be a long-term thing? And I will be completely honest with you, Chris, I don't know. It could happen quickly. It could happen really, really slowly. Because, and I'll make another comparison here to the Peyton Bowen situation. Peyton Bowen committed to Notre Dame on New Year's Day 2022. He signed with Oklahoma on December 23rd, 2022, as I recall. So it took almost an entire year for Oklahoma to complete the flip, but Peyton Bowen himself was ready to flip to OU as early as like March or April, to my recollection. It was more of the reason it dragged out so long was because the greater predicament was, can you get everybody in his camp fully on board with the OU flip? Peyton Bowen wants it. However, he's not the only one who has a vested interest in his situation, and he's not the only one you have to convince that Oklahoma is the right place for him. And to a certain extent, it's going to be the same thing with Cooper Hackett, because Cooper Hackett has a family. He's got parents. He's got younger siblings. He's got a circle out there in Fort Gibson, and there are going to be people in his camp, in his circle, who have opinions as to what is best for him. And so it's not just about sealing the deal with the player. You have to – what you either have to do is across the board, you have to make it abundantly clear to everybody involved in Cooper Hackett's recruitment that Oklahoma makes the most sense, or you just have to be willing to let things drag out long enough that Hackett at that point is sitting on a decision that he has to make, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to make this call independently of what anybody in my camp thinks. And I'm going to trust my instincts, and I'm going to do what I want to do for my football career, and I'm going to go play football at Oklahoma. I mean, that's what it came to for Peyton Bowen. All the way up until he signed, there were people in Peyton Bowen's circle that were not on board with Oklahoma. And that's why it took so long. The reason Peyton Bowen visited again and again and again throughout the fall of 2022, but never actually pulled the trigger, was because he didn't want to pull the trigger because it was going to piss off people in his circle. And so, like, end of the day, you know, you get to the end of the line, and the end of the line, of course, is signing day, and you have to make a call. You are out of time. You can no longer hem and haw and sit on your hands. No, you have to make a decision. And so, in that moment, Peyton Bowen made the decision that he wanted to make. I don't know what decision Cooper Hackett's going to make in the end. I would think he's going to make the decision that he wants to make. But it might take that long. It might take all the way till signing day next year. Or it could be the type of deal where Oklahoma just sweeps Hackett and his folks off his feet, and this is over very quickly. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to unfold. However, here's what I do know. This won't be the last time Oklahoma gets Cooper Hackett on campus either. A 918 listener says, you are 100% correct, Parker. It's all about the money right now. I wouldn't say it's all about the money. But obviously, when you're a five-star prospect, the money component is going to weigh heavily into the final decision. And it will for Hackett. It will. Like, Oklahoma's not going to sign him for $0. I don't know when Oklahoma is going to put a robust package in front of Hackett that is comparable enough to his deal at Texas Tech, or what his deal at Texas Tech would be, that he and everybody around him is ready to jump. So, again, this is one of those deals where you just kind of got to hurry up and wait and concede that you may not know exactly when we get a resolution, but trust that there's going to be a resolution, and in all likelihood it's going to be a resolution that is favorable for Oklahoma, because I don't think it's difficult for anybody to pick up on the reality, if you've been following this recruitment, that Oklahoma has a special place in Cooper Hackett's heart. He would love to be a Sooner. Okay, folks, the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, once again, is 405-651-3439. We're going to talk more recruiting on the other side. We're going to talk about the availability report. We will certainly talk about some prominent storylines heading into this matchup with Auburn tomorrow. The show is brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. If you're looking for a new vehicle, why not a GMC? GMC offers some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the road today. And Dorsey Jones offers phenomenal service as well for your existing vehicle, including half-price oil changes on Saturdays. So, if you need something to kill a little time before the game tomorrow, head out to Dorsey Jones in El Reno and get that oil changed for half price. It's a heck of a deal. Again, Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. We appreciate their partnership here on Locked In. And we will return with more OU football and recruiting talk on the other side. Let's get a quick word from our sponsors. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Do you eat, sleep, and breathe Sooner football? We do too. This is The Ref, home of Sooner fans.
Feeling stuck in your current home? Now is the best time to make a move. Home Creations is making home ownership more affordable with low interest rate opportunities and special financing. Don't wait. Live like a champion today. Call Holly at 405-364-9999 to find your dream home.
364-9999 means Home Creations.
Where do Oklahoma sports fans go to watch the big game? Gridiron Sports Bar at River Spirit Casino Resort in Tulsa. With multiple viewing screens and a huge LED wall, you'll never miss a play. Enjoy bar-top gaming, Top Golf swing suites, delicious game day food and drinks, and a VIP lounge for top-tier players. Gridiron Sports Bar takes sports fans to another viewing level. Gridiron Sports Bar, Tulsa's fan favorite.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
Hi, this is Nettie from The Local, Norman's newest restaurant, and we invite you to come check it out. The Local features delicious Okie cuisine like the famous local salad, mouth-watering bone-in pork chops, or the Okie burger, plus fantastic drink specials throughout the week. You can also enjoy brunch on Sundays starting at 10 a.m. Happy hour all day on college football Saturdays, you can't beat that. We have 3 locations in the metro, Yukon, Mustang, and the newest one in Norman at 110 West Main Street. Or visit thelocalrestaurant.com.
For over 80 years, Primrose Funeral Service has been providing comfort and guidance during difficult times. Pre-planning with Primrose can help make things a little easier for families. Not only can you pre-plan a funeral, but you can pre-plan your sunset cemetery arrangements, which removes the difficulty of planning for a loss at the same time loved ones are experiencing one. Contact Primrose Funeral Service at 405-321-6000 or visit them online at primrosefuneralservice.com.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Flu season is here, and getting sick was never in your game plan. When you're sidelined by illness, don't wait on a doctor's appointment and don't waste a trip to the ER. Get back in the lineup fast with same-day care from Norman Regional. With urgent care and walk-in clinics across Moore and Norman, they're always ready to make the right call. Already a Norman Regional patient? They've got your records on hand to draft up the winning play right when you need it. Find the clinic nearest to you at normanregional.com or dial 405-515-5000. Norman Regional Urgent Care and walk-in clinics, open when you need it.
Dreaming of your own backyard oasis? Be the envy of your neighborhood and let Signature Custom Pools help you create the perfect poolside paradise. Their professional design expertise can transport you into your own Mystic Falls, suburban sanctuary, or Mediterranean retreat. Settle into an endless vacation, entertain your family, friends, and get the signature touch with Signature Custom Pools. Call them for a free consultation at 405-898-9098 or visit them online at signaturecustompools.com today.
Back with you here on the Ref, the Omaha Sooner fans, Parker, Thune, Grayson, Singleton, rolling along with you on a Friday. Just over 24 hours away from OU Auburn in the Palace. Spent the first segment talking about Cooper Hackett, and rightfully so. He's probably the most conspicuous 2027 visitor that is due on campus tomorrow at Oklahoma. But here's another substantial storyline, Grayson, Singleton. There's another national top 50 offensive lineman from within the state of Oklahoma in the 2027 class, and he, too, is going to be on campus with the Sooners for the second time in as many weeks. Caden Penny, visited Oklahoma for the Michigan game on September 6th. He will be back tomorrow, September 20th, to watch the Sooners host the Tigers. And, man, I don't know how much this has been talked about. I know we've briefly mentioned it in passing, but Caden Penny, of course, is a product of Bigsby. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma, to the best of my knowledge, please correct me if I'm wrong on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. I don't believe Oklahoma has ever signed a scholarship football player out of Bigsby. I know they've had a few walk-ons. I don't think Oklahoma has signed a scholarship player out of Bigsby in the modern recruiting era. So, could Caden Penny be the guy that breaks that drought for Oklahoma, that snaps that ignominious streak? He's the number 34 player in the nation, according to Rivals. Number 2 interior offensive lineman, I do believe. And he has a very high interest in Bill Bedenbaugh and Oklahoma. He has a ton of interest in potentially being a Sooner. Now, he's got Ohio State coming after him. He's got Texas A&M coming after him. He's got a laundry list of big-time offers, as you would expect of a kid, for a kid of his status. But the Sooners appear to be pretty dang well positioned here early for another one of 2027's best hog mollies.
First of all, where the hell did you get that word from?
Hog mollies?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Don't tell me you've never heard that.
No.
In reference to offensive linemen?
Nope. Can't say that I have.
Okay, fair enough. Well, never mind. I was going to make an Oklahoma State joke, but I won't.
I mean, go for it. I'm not going to be offended. I mean, at this point, what I deal with the text line every day.
That is true. Text line is merciless. Also, I think you accidentally called OU Oklahoma State last segment, and there were a few texters that got on you for it.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to see if I could let that fly over everybody's head. But anyway, back to Cooper Hackett, though. I mean, not Cooper Hackett, Caden Penny, though. If you're Oklahoma, to me, it's more about locking down your in-staters again. because we're coming off of a class where there were decent in-state products that you could have had and you just weren't able to get it done. Caden Jones comes to mind. Taj Overton comes to mind. Dejon Ackerson was also there too. And there were others. So you haven't you didn't take care of business in the 2026 class in the state. The 2027 class, I will say this, is a lot deeper in the state of Oklahoma than the 2026 class was. So whether it's Caden Penny at Bixby, whether it's a guy like a Gabriel Osborne, the corner at Mustang, you got to lock down some of these dudes, because if I know Brent Venables' arrival has changed things a little bit in terms of now you've got a guy who's used to getting people out of the state of Georgia, out of the state of Florida to come play for him when he was at Clemson. Your nationwide reach is a little bit more expanded with him and the arrival of Jim Nagy. But you still got to make sure that the kids that have the huge interest in coming to Oklahoma, the kids who grew up rooting for Oklahoma in the state, that you lock it down with some of them. Not all of them. Your percentage may go down in terms of your roster construction and the guys that are from the state of Oklahoma. That might go down. Sure, that's all fine and good. But you got to get the elite prospects. And Caden Penny certainly fits that mold as a dude who has improved, by the way, from last year to this year and has gotten bigger.
Bigger and a lot stronger, man.
Stronger.
He's been fun to watch.
And quite frankly, his foot speed has gotten a little bit quicker too.
I knew we were going to get this text. The listener in Texas asked, isn't it Bixby with an X?
Yes.
Or is there another town named Bigsby?
No,
it is
Bixby.
It is Bixby with an X.
And by the way, you look like you were exerting so much effort to pronounce it that way. As Bigsby.
It's a bit at this point. It's a bit. I picked up on the fact that Oklahomans refer to it as Bigsby. And now, much like Teddy Lehman does with Louisiana, Missouri, and all the rest, I always exaggerate the Bigsby pronunciation.
Wait, hang on. Okay, now I've got a serious question.
Okay.
Does Teddy actually talk like that, or does he just do that for a bit?
Yeah, no, it's all a bit.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
If we were ever having a serious conversation off the air about Bigsby High School. Now, you would hear it because I'm from Nebraska, right?
Right.
I have no distinguishable accent.
Nope.
Maybe a couple decades from now when I've lived here long enough, but I will refer to it as Bixby because that's how it's spelled. That's how it's most accurately pronounced, but we live in Oklahoma and people call it Bigsby.
A text from the 405 says, yes, please stop saying Bigsby.
TK from the 405 says, not knowing the term hog mollies tells everyone how young you are, Grayson. You're too young to have listened to the great John Madden call a football game.
Now that I may have heard John Madden call one Super Bowl. It was it would have been the Steelers Cardinals Super Bowl, I guess 43.
Yes, that was his last game.
Yeah, and remember at that point I was 7 years old, I think.
Uh-huh.
But now that you mentioned John Madden, now I do remember where that's come from.
I got you.
I am well versed in my history of broadcasting,
as you should be, as we all should be in this industry. Okay, so Cooper Hackett, Caden Penny, both going to be back on campus. The big Okie Hog Mollies once again on campus tomorrow for Oklahoma. Another big-time offensive lineman in the 2027 class that is expected to visit OU tomorrow. How about Caden Moss? For those that aren't familiar with Caden Moss, he is, according to Rivals, the number 36 overall player in the country, the number 8 offensive tackle in the country, and the number 2 player in the state of Mississippi. He goes to Jackson Academy in Jackson, Mississippi. I have a really funny Jackson, Mississippi story that I'm not going to tell on air, but we're going to have to, if there's some eventual traction, some serious traction between Caden Moss and the Sooners, I'm going to have to tell my Jackson, Mississippi story on air at some point. But Caden Moss, if you've gotten the chance to look at the tape, really, really impressive prospect. Man, 6'5", 265 pounds. ESPN actually considers him a 5-star prospect and the number 11 overall player in the 27 cycle. So this kid can play. It'll be his first trip to Oklahoma. And no doubt, this is another one of those guys that's going to be heavily scrutinizing the performance of one Michael Fasusi tomorrow.
Yeah, he will. And by the way, Caden Moss is, in terms of all the tackles we've talked about, in terms of how he technically plays the position, is very similar to Michael Fasusi. Now, am I saying he has the upside of Michael Fasusi? No. But when you look at their lower half and the way that their foundation is wide base, sturdy, and they don't really get moved in any direction that they don't want to move in, they're very comparable to each other. And that's what stands out about Caden Moss. He's 265 listed on On3. By the way, Parker, do you know what he's listed at on his huddle and his Twitter, which was the first place I went to?
What's that?
300.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
There's kind of a large discrepancy here when it comes
that
to
tends to be how it is with offensive linemen, man, in particular. Weights and heights are all over the freaking place.
No, exactly. But no,
I'll give you guys a more reliable indication of what he is height and weight-wise tomorrow when I see him with my own two eyes.
There you go. But in terms of him as a prospect, man, he's immovable. And he's physically imposing, too. I watched some of the tape, and it just looks like the dudes that line up against him are like, I don't want no part of this one. And he definitely gives them all they want in terms of not wanting it. So, no, he's a really, really good prospect. I can see where he gets the 4 borderline 5-star rating. I will say the funniest thing about his film, though, is how many wide-open receivers his quarterback misses. I mean,
really?
Butt naked open that he just overshoots for. I mean, like 5 touchdowns just left off the board. I'm like, Jesus, who is he blocking for?
Oh man, we have a Patrick bomb on the text line from Patrick in the 405. He said, heard from a friend that Georgia is going to play in Norman next year as one of their road games. I guess that's the other big storyline moving forward here, Grayson. Once we get beyond OU Auburn tomorrow, is there's going to be a bye week on the other side, and we're going to have to endure the lull of the bye week. But we do find out next Tuesday who Oklahoma's 3 annual opponents are going to be in SEC play moving forward. I don't know offhand when we're going to know the 2027 schedule in its entirety, but we will know the annual opponents on Tuesday. Let me ask you this. What do you expect and what do you hope?
Well, Texas is going to be an annual opponent.
Of course.
You know what? I saw this tweet from Chris Lowe a couple of minutes ago that the annual opponents also are going to be reevaluated every 4 years, too, and they're taking into account making sure these games are actually good. So I think there's a hierarchy of the SEC that is taken out of here, one of which being, I think, Arkansas. I'm going to go with LSU, and that's a combination of the head and the heart there, because I want LSU to be one of the annual opponents. I'm going to go LSU, and I'm going to go I almost said Georgia there. I almost said Georgia. Missouri, huh?
Missouri and LSU in addition to Texas?
Yeah. That's my prediction.
Let me tell you this. Here's what I think versus what I hope. What I think will happen, because there's been a lot of behind-the-scenes buzz percolating about this particular outcome as far as Oklahoma's annual opponents for years now, and I haven't heard anything concrete and definitive to change my mind as to the most likely group of 3. I think it's going to be OU. I'm sorry, obviously OU. I think it's going to be Texas, Missouri, Arkansas. I think it's going to be those 3. However, especially with the knowledge that, as you said, they're going to reevaluate these annual opponents every 4 years, here's what I want in the immediate. Here's what I want for the next 4 years in particular. In addition to Texas, if I could draft the annual opponents, my number 1 draft pick past Texas is Tennessee.
Okay.
Because of Josh Heupel.
I would not mind
that. You would think that narrative, that storyline, is going to sell. And I bet you the SEC has that in mind. And I would like to see them go that route. I would like it if it were Texas, Tennessee, and, man, I'm torn between LSU and Arkansas. I think LSU would be great. I think South Carolina would also be great, especially if we're not committing to anything beyond 4 years. I do get the sense that they're going to try to maintain some semblance of reasonable regionality.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So that's why I lean in the direction of Arkansas or LSU. If I could have my choice, this may be controversial. I would choose Arkansas. I would choose Arkansas over LSU.
Why?
Because I think OU Arkansas has serious new school rivalry potential. I would like to see OU and Arkansas play every single year for like 15, 20 years. And just see where things stand at that point. Because I think down the road, this may have turned into one of those new SEC rivalries that is really, really, really fun. And obviously, it's not going to be fun in the short term if Arkansas sucks. It'll be an easy win that you can look forward to. But I also don't think we're too far away. I don't think we're too far away from there being a significant staff turnover there in Fayetteville. That's probably happening at the end of the season. So let's say OU and Arkansas played in 2026, in 2027. At that point, who knows what Arkansas looks like? Who knows who their head coach is? Who knows what kind of new juice he's brought to the program? And so I'm intrigued by that. I'm not very moved by the possibility of Oklahoma going up against a Sam Pittman team as one of their annual opponents. But obviously, Sam Pittman is not going to be employed by the University of Arkansas for very much longer.
No, probably not. And what you said in terms of building a new school rivalry that's interesting is what kind of gets me away from Arkansas, because we have no idea how the new staff is actually going to work. So if you're talking about building a rivalry where it's nip and tuck back and forth, you would want to avoid a team that has the potential to be really, really bad. And that brings me to Texas A&M, because Texas A&M isn't always fantastic, but they're never awful. Like they never suck. So
that's true.
If you're talking about a new school rivalry with kind of like a little bit of an old school feel kind of thing, I would go with Texas A&M. But I think LSU fits that same boat too. Never going to be horrible, and they're not always fantastic, but they're always going to be in that 9-10 win range, which makes an annual game between them and Oklahoma that much more intriguing. So I would go with LSU. I would go with Tennessee, like you brought up. I would go with A&M before I went to Arkansas, even though Oklahoma and Arkansas share a border.
If I'm drafting it, folks, that's my three. Give me Texas, give me Tennessee, give me Arkansas. We'll know next Tuesday, one way or another. Okay, we got to hit another timeout here. On the other side, more OU football and recruiting talk, of course, because what else do we do here on Locked In? This is The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. More to come.
Sound off any time of day on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. Knippelmeyer Chevrolet in Blanchard, USA.
Riverwind Casino is OKC's favorite place to be.
And you can bet that we've got all your favorite entertainment.
Yeah. Play your best hand yet on blackjack or roulette.
And get lucky on nearly 3,000 electronic games.
Join us every Friday in September to play for your share of our $80,000 sweater weather giveaway.
For the best gaming, top-tier fun, and guaranteed good times.
You know it's got to be Riverwind.
I'm your football-obsessed best man. Physically, I'm right here. But mentally, I'm here. Yeah, I do. Come on, speed it up. When all eyes are on you, my eyes are glued to the game. Whoa! Touchdown, yeah. And if you didn't bundle your home and auto insurance, well, all of this could be tough to tackle. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem. Like me.
Call Josh Nelson, Allstate Insurance Agency, 405-360-9500 to be protected from mayhem.
At Armstrong Bank, your business isn't just business to us. It's personal. Our bankers are invested in your success, and we're ready to build a relationship that lasts. You deserve a strong financial partner by your side. Together, we can help make your business even stronger with products and services designed for your convenience. To learn more, Visit a location near you or visit Armstrong.bank. Armstrong Bank. Strength runs in our family. Member FDIC.
Hey, sports fans, you cheer on your kids on the field, now give them a chance to shine on stage. At the studio of the Sooner Theater, our school year performing art classes are open for ages 3 to adult. From musical theater to acting, jazz, tap, ballet, and hip-hop, and full-scale productions where your star can perform in the spotlight. Don't sit on the sidelines. Enroll now. Visit SoonerTheater.org or call 405-321-9600. The Sooner Theater, where every season is game day for the arts.
For 3 generations, the John M. Ireland & Son Funeral Home and Chapel in Morris continued to serve the community by giving back to local schools, charitable organizations, and first responders.
We provide pre-planning for funerals and cremation services at the most reasonable prices.
We are proud to be a family-owned and operated funeral home.
Award-winning funeral home year after year, our family believes in serving the people of our community.
I'm John Ireland.
And I'm Solon Daniels.
You've got our word on it.
What's up, Ref Army? Darinoka here, the SEC Network, and your newest host here at the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Spend your late mornings with me and Josh Helmer every weekday from 9 to noon as we talk everything Sooners, and I'll help you all keep tabs on what's happening in the rest of the SEC. The Ref is the home for the best coverage of anything and everything Sooners, and you can listen worldwide on the KREF app. Check us out in your Apple or Google Play store by searching for KREF, and take us anywhere you go. That's the KREF app for the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Hey, it's Chris Plank, and I want to give a tip of the cap to my friends at Sooner Bowl. When you've been entertaining families in Norman for more than 40 years, you know you've been doing something right. At Sooner Bowl, it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro with amazing spin on your ball like me, or if you need bumpers to avoid going in the gutter each time. For decades, it's been where friends and families have met to enjoy their time. And don't forget Social Butterfly Catering and Escape Sooner for more family fun. I love it. You'll love it. Visit SoonerBowl.com for more information.
No matter where you live, you care about one thing during bad weather: keeping your family and property safe. Scissortail Roofing and Construction is here to ensure just that. Whether it's damage from strong winds or a hailstorm, we will manage your residential or commercial project from start to finish. Call us today, 405-928-8089, or visit us online at scissortailroofing.com for a free estimate. Call Scissortail today, your trusted local roofing and construction company.
Final segments of the week here on Locked In. Parker Thune, Grayson, Singleton. I am at OEC Fiber today. Their beautiful headquarters here just off of Main Street here in Norman. Grayson holding down the fort back in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios. And we continue to interact with all of you on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. Man, I didn't expect that we were going to get as much feedback as we did in talking about the annual opponents for OU moving forward, which we will learn on Tuesday when that announcement is made by the Southeastern Conference. Yardbird Richard with an interesting question on the text line. What 3 programs do the most for OU recruiting and the cultivation of the fan and donor base? That's what I want. Well, I mean, obviously Texas. I'd say Texas A&M probably has to be on that list too. Like, is it as simple as Texas, Texas A&M, LSU? Like those 3?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, at Alabama, maybe. You need jam Alabama in there somehow. But even so, there's not much of a history between OU and Alabama. And, you know, maybe look at it and say there's not a ton of history between OU and LSU either, and that's true. But they have faced off in some pretty big football games historically. 2019 Peach Bowl, LSU won that one handily en route to a national championship. Of course, the Tigers knocked off Oklahoma in 2003 in the national championship game as well. So I would say it's Texas, Texas A&M, and LSU. That would be my standpoints on it. Literal Al. Wait, does that say literal Al or literal AI? I can't really tell. Hopefully it's not literal AI because I have no desire to interact with AI. Literal AI or literal Al. I'm going to hope it's Literal Al. Says, are we ignoring the YouTube chat? By no means.
You know what? Let's go to the YouTube chat because we do have a super chat.
Okay.
Alan on the YouTube chat asks, what is Eli Bowen's injury?
Oh, okay. Well, Literal Al. We know now. I'm going to assume Al and Alan are the same person. Eli Bowen's injury. So here's what I can tell you about the Eli Bowen soap opera, and it has been kind of a soap opera. So he suffered a high ankle sprain back in March. That kept him in a boot for about 4 months. It was a severe enough sprain that it kept him in a boot for about 4 months. In July, as I recall, he had a little procedure on the ankle. And so that set him back another 6 weeks or so. And that's about where we are right now. Auburn had kind of been the rough target date for Eli Bowen's return. Now, Oklahoma's obviously in a situation where Bowen probably wasn't going to be 100% for this weekend. And Oklahoma doesn't need to play 70-80% of Eli Bowen against Auburn with the way that Cortland Guillory in particular has really come on strong opposite Gentry Williams. And so they're going to give him through the bye week to get right. And my full expectation is that you're going to see Eli Bowen make his season debut against Kent State and probably play limited snaps, as will most of Oklahoma's first and second string guys. Most of the guys in the rotation across the board for Oklahoma probably not going to play a ton against Kent State because they are a truly awful football team, Grayson. They have won 3 games in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
They are 1-2 on the season. That lone victory was a 21-17 triumph over Merrimack, which I did not know Merrimack fielded a football program.
I didn't know that either. And people wonder why I get annoyed that this game is upcoming.
So, yeah, that's a cupcake and a half in which Oklahoma should be able to play literally everyone that wears the uniform. Everyone that is healthy and active for that football game should get the opportunity to play in that football game. That game should be well in hand by the midpoint of the first quarter. But, that's when you'll see Eli Bowen for the first time. That's when you'll also see Giovanni Gibson for the first time. Those two will return against Kent State. Barring any further complications, barring any setbacks, they are on track to return definitively, no questions about it, against Kent State.
A texter in the 918 asks, Tennessee is not happening. They have too many rivals in the SEC already. Kind of agree with that. Yeah, man, I do agree with that. He also says, Grayson's analysis of a bad team not being a rival falls apart. Arkansas would be perfect. Look no further than Bedlam 91-20. More years than not, OSU is a bad program, but it's still a great, fun game. And to that, I will come back with this. Arkansas had an 11-win season, went 11-2 in 2011. You know how many times Arkansas has won 8 games since then, Parker?
3, 4?
Twice.
Okay.
They have won 8 games twice in that span. Since we brought up Oklahoma State, you know how many times Oklahoma State has won 8 games in that span?
Quite a bit more than twice.
10 times, including a 12-1 2011. So if you want to bring that into account, but the real argument is what do the teams look like right now, per se? And if you're going to say Arkansas is a team that like you think will be competitive with Oklahoma year in and year out, I would have to disagree. So if we're talking about it, like the Chris Lowe tweet stated, that they're going to try to make sure these are competitive football games, Arkansas, I think, just doesn't fit that criteria as they stand currently constructed.
Well, and can we just acknowledge that we really have no idea what quote-unquote competitive matchups are going to look like even 1 year into the future?
Very true.
For instance, 1 year ago, in September of 2024, if the annual opponents were being released, and Oklahoma drew Vanderbilt, everybody and their second cousin would have said, well, that's a win. That's an annual win. You can Sharpie onto the schedule for OU. Now, how does that look? And
a little more competitive.
And it's the same thing with a program like Florida. in the opposite direction, right? And much the obverse of that is a situation like you're seeing with Florida, where even going into this season, most folks would have expected that Florida was going to be an 8-9 win football team, probably pick up a few marquee wins along the way over the course of their SEC schedule. And now Florida looks like they might be the worst team in the SEC, Grayson. I don't feel like that's far off from reality. Like it's a dogfight right now between them and Kentucky. And Mississippi State is 3-0. So there's such an ebb and flow competitively within the SEC that you really have no way of knowing who's going to be a doormat and who's going to be a viable contender a year into the future. And, I mean, think about if we're trying to project what the annual opponents are going to look like 5 years into the future, it's all the more impossible.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really curious to see how the SEC approaches this because, again, I'm just not really sure how you try to maintain competitive balance and create competitive matchups when you're not even really sure what these teams are going to look like a year from now. Like Florida could hire a new head coach, and let's say, for the sake of the argument, let's say they hire Lane Kiffin because Lane Kiffin gets linked to the Florida job every single time it's open.
Yep.
Let's say they finally pull it off and hire Lane Kiffin. If Lane Kiffin is Florida's head coach next year, boy, are we probably talking about Florida a lot differently than if their head coach is, say, D'Anton Lynn, somebody who's never been a head coach at the P4 level before.
True.
Because you hire somebody like Lane Kiffin, there's probably an influx of talent ready to follow him to Gainesville. Not so if you're hiring somebody to be a first-time head coach or you're hiring another G5 coach like Billy Napier.
But then again, Thune, let me pitch this to you. Remember when this is being released. This is being released on Tuesday.
Yep.
Remember that. So Sam Pittman would not have been fired, you would think, would not have been fired by that point. Billy Napier would not have been fired by that point. Now, you can project that, but this time last year, we also projected that Billy Napier wouldn't be the head coach right now at Florida.
Sam Pittman, too, for that
Sam
matter.
Pittman. So again, you never really know, which is why, to me, when you have this conversation, we're thinking of, okay, what have been the recent trends with the program? And to me, if you want to put a recent trend on what's going to be competitive, I don't think you can look at it and say, well, Arkansas is going to be one of the most competitive opponents for Oklahoma if we're trying to make these good football games and make them compelling TV products. I don't think you can. By the way, East Texas Sooner says, we are talking about 8 games. Get this poke joke, that's a new one, off the air. Love you too, man. Tell me what I said was wrong.
Hey, we got about 3 minutes left in the show. How are we feeling about this game tomorrow?
Oh, well, I think Oklahoma should win this game.
Yeah.
Now, as long as they stay multidimensional offensively and can generate a run game with the running backs, I feel that much more confident. But, look, if they have to air it out and throw it, Oklahoma's got really good wide receivers, and the worst unit on Auburn's team is their secondary, particularly their corners. So there is going to be that. You're going to have your biggest challenge stopping the run game, I think, coming this week. I don't think it was Michigan. I think it's going to be this Auburn team, though. With the way they can run the ball with Jackson Arnold, with the way they can run the ball with their running backs, Cobb is a really good player, and their offensive line has blocked for the run excellently. By the way, keep this in mind, too. Oklahoma is on the losing side of this. Auburn has the higher ranked, by PFF grades, offensive line and defensive line. Now, I'm not making a judgment on that, but it is something to watch and see if those grades, Auburn's offensive line graded higher than Oklahoma's, Auburn's defensive line graded higher than Oklahoma's. I'm interested to see, again, not making a judgment here because I know I need to clarify that for some people, but that is an interesting storyline to follow and see if that holds up. Because if those hold serve, we could be talking about a much more interesting game than we realize.
Well, hey, folks, just to give you a preview of what's ahead tomorrow in advance of OU Auburn. As usual, we're going to have a full 5 hours of pregame coverage here on The Ref. I will be at Boyd Street Ventures from 8:30 to 10:30, flying solo But I do have a cavalcade of vaunted guests ready to join the show, including Steve Stutzman, Papa Top himself, who will join the program at 9:40. Also looking forward to catching up with Sooner legend Martin Chase shortly beforehand at 9:20. That and so much more is ahead for you on our Sooner Game Day show. Obviously, you will hear from Toby Rowland. You will hear from Teddy Lehman. You will hear from the Steel Man and Josh Helmer, and it all leads up to this all-important tilt. The Jackson-Arnold revenge game in Norman tomorrow. Kickoff at 2:30. We are done for the week here on Locked In. Everybody have an awesome game day tomorrow. And don't go anywhere because The Rush is coming up next. Tyler and Ted have another 3 hours of Sooner talk on the other side. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.